Welcome to the grand finals of the Australian Ultimate Mixed Championships. We have got a game for you here, and we have, as you can hear in the background, Wollongong Krank in red versus Half Moon in white. Before we start, your commentators for today are myself, Phil Shields.
And my name's Katie Snellgrove. And today we'd just like to acknowledge that we are here playing on Warramai land. And we'd just like to pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander players or viewers of this grand final.
Yeah, we are excited to be here. A lot of close games, a lot of comebacks. It's all up on the ULTI.TV on the YouTube site. So look up ULTI.TV. You'll see all the action, all the highlights there, including the live stream of this game. If you have friends who are not doing a lot today, or even if they are doing something, let them know that this live stream is happening right now so that they can tune in also. You'll see the result of the bronze medal match, which was just played between Pompey Magnus and Chili Chimichanga there. Not just the result, but the full game. So after you've seen this game, sign in, tune in, have a look at that game. That was a blinder as well. But back to this game.
And we're very excited for this matchup. So these teams have met before in this competition on the very first day, 2 days ago now, with Half Moon coming out with the win on Universe, I've been told, in that game. So Krank looking to get redemption here, but we know that both of these teams have got extremely experienced players on their lines, depth throughout their rosters, and a lot of grit. So I think it's going to be a very enjoyable hour and a half or so.
I think so. Look for a lot of high grabs, look for a few layouts, a few toe-ins in the end zone, and high competition. So to start us off, the pull goes down to Half Moon in white. They move it up the field. Wee has it at the moment. He's looking to go to Phillips. Should be one of the mainstays of this Half Moon offense and defense, into the hands of Pigeon. Pigeon moves it further up to line, going to Wee. Got a strong cut there into the end zone and a bid, but Foreman comes away with it. Half Moon get the first point of the match.
Showing that skill there is Half Moon, getting free on those undercuts, and a huge bid from Kieran Stoddard of Wollongong, but can't quite deny the goal there from Bill Foreman of Half Moon. A nice clean opening point. I'm sure that's what Half Moon would have been hoping for.
You see that bid there again, just in the replay from Stoddart. So great effort from Stoddart, unable to get there. And I'll tell you what I'm honestly expecting, a lot of trades. I'm expecting a really close match. If it's a blowout, that will surprise me, but I'm expecting a very close match.
I think we can expect to see too that if a team does make any sort of error, the opposing team is not going to let that break chance go away easily. I think.
Exactly. And we have some statistics to give you throughout, powered by Bananomics. And hopefully we will get those on screen too as well. But back to the game as Half Moon wind up. Big pull there. It's floating. It's coming down. Will it be in that back corner? It'll be caught first. And it gets centered to Ferguson. It comes across to Coleman. Oh, sorry. Back to Ferguson. Comes across down this near sideline. Nothing coming, looks for the dump. Dump is there, turns around. Ryan comes back to Booth. Keys.
Sending it into the end zone. Webster's underneath it, and he's caught it. Wollongong on the board.
So Keys sends it long for Wollongong's first score.
Yeah, great work there from Wollongong. Under some pressure from the Half Moon team. But a nice, smooth backhand huck from John O'Keys out to Thomas Webster, bringing it down in the end zone in lots of space in the end. I think that Half Moon to really mess with Wollongong's offense, is going to need to shut down those hucks from Keys.
So 2 very clean offensive looks shows the strength of both teams. How long can they hold it up without getting a turn? We're not sure at the moment. As I said earlier, I'm expecting trades, a lot of clean O that could change at any moment depending on the mindset of the team and what they throw at each other offensively and defensively.
Here we've got the pull coming up from Lavis of Wollongong. Half Moon picking up quickly, sending it to Karumar. Weatherall. Few ellipsis players on this team. Bit of a mixed bag, mostly from Victoria. Weatherall's going for it. Nice up the line. And looking for the flick into the end zone to lock in, and Lavis gets in the way of it. Wollongong with the first break chance of the game.
That was a brilliant early read by Lavis to get on, attach himself, latch onto that throw and affect the D.
We saw a lot of those from Matt Lavis in the previous streamed game. That is also up on the ULTI.TV YouTube of Wollongong. So if you need something to do tonight, you can take a look at that as Dang brings it to the end zone line to Lavis. Across to Faulkner, back to Diggins. Wollongong known for their quick offense as Diggins sends it up high. Faulkner's under it, but so is Half Moon. They're scrambling for it. Bit of contact there, but it seems well-spirited between the two players. Seems like a bit of a discussion here. There might have been a travel call. Unsure if it's come from a player on the field or from somebody on the sideline.
Yeah, I missed that. Something happened on the field. There was a call about something, but I'm not too sure what it was. Game advisor comes in. The 2 game advisors for this game are Georgia Sutty and Aidan Turner. Good experience with these game advisors. They sort things out. They explain things very well, both in terms of what they see and what the rules are to help and aid the players on the field. So a bit of push and shove going on there. From our look, it looked clean because both of them were happy to continue with that push and shove and just continue the play. However, something's happened upfield which we didn't see apparently, and play will resume shortly.
I think it was a travel call there on Mike Trong, sorry. Not sure who called the travel, but it has stood. The disc has gone back. Disc has gone to Weatherall. Happy to work it up that far sideline to Lochnan. Looking for the swing to Trong. Phillips here with lots of space on the outside. Can Wollongong stop the break? She's sent it long. Few players underneath it. Weatherall's there, but Dang is coming in. And Dang from Wollongong does very well to bring that one down.
Yeah, strong run from 2 Half Moon players which were looking to get that disc. In the end, it was Dang, as you said, who came across and really wanted that the most and just pushed it into the ground.
2 of those so far this point for Dang. Proving useful as Thea Osmond sends it up long, but Kat Phillips is in the way of that. Heads up defense from her there. Lochnan on the sideline sends it down to Eva Weatherall, and this time she brings it down. Half Moon working well to hold that point, holding off Wollongong with a couple of break chances. That would have been a good one for Wollongong to get the break there.
So our first point of the match where we've had a couple of turns from both of the teams. A bit unexpected, a bit unusual. Let's see whether the trend continues or not. Kat Phillips playing a strong role in that point. Bit of give-go, gets the defensive turn as well, and plays a big part in that score.
So a little bit about both of these teams. Wollongong, quite an established mixed club, also having split gender teams in Krank and Surge, but they've played together as a mixed club for quite a number of years, whereas Half Moon are not an established mixed club, but they have all had a lot of training and high-level competition experience playing together on various teams. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out throughout the match. As the pool comes up, Wollongong on the offensive. Keys going to walk up very casually to the disc. Setting up in a horror is Wollongong. Into the hands of Nichols in the middle. She's proven very useful in that space so far. Over to Keys. He wants it long, but hasn't quite got the option that he's looking for. Over to Ferguson on the far side. Once again, not getting the options downfield quite at the right time that they want. Happy to pass it between the handlers until they do get that shot. Keys again. And there's a pick further downfield. Disc is back in. Keys looking for the centering pass, and he gets it from Ryan. No one there quite yet for the swing, but there's a bladey flick in through the center. Back to Keys. To Ferguson. And into Ryan, and he grabs it. Wollongong does well to hold there. You can really see the chemistry between those players. Having played together quite a lot of trust between them.
Yeah, no, that was good flow in the end there at the end of that point.
You see Ryan just stepping it in there. Outstretched hand. That wasn't really a bladey flick that I called. That was a nice singer. Apologies to Kobe. So you can see we've got a bit of a crowd gathering. Most of the other teams, I believe, have finished playing so far. The tournament done for everybody else except these two.
Exactly. Everyone out here to watch this match, and a great backdrop here. Nelson Bay, New South Wales. Bit of bushland behind, offering some wind protection. Nice grass, good weather, a light breeze, sun's out, bit of cloud. Perfect conditions for the players to do their best and show us a good game. As Phillips receives the disc, centres it, goes to Ma. Ma holding onto it, sends it back. Ma receives it back again, almost a travel, but sends it this way to Phillips. And the wind took it about another 2 inches above where she intended to catch it, caused it to go over her head.
Another chance here for Wollongong. I don't think they're going to get many like that from this Half Moon team, who are very skilled. Just not quite being able to read that with the wind, just reaching over. And a huge bid there from Lochnan on Stoddard. No call is made. And he sends it into the end zone. And well read by Pigeon.
That was a strong muscle around by Pigeon to get position into that. I think the defender thought that she had it. She slowed down. She really needed to attack it a lot more. And I think that's going to be telling maybe a bit of a difference between these two teams. The Half Moon team know how to attack the disc, know how to get blocks, know how to get it back, even when it looks like they're down and dusted and they're not going to get it. Don't count them out in any situation.
Yeah, it did look like Osman thought she had boxed out Pigeon, but Pigeon managed to get around her without causing any contact from this perspective. Both teams here very capable of causing some chaos on the field. We've already seen a few great high grabs in the end zone to block a goal from Kevin Dang on Wollongong too. So let's see if Wollongong can lift here. I believe, was that one a break just then for Half Moon?
Possibly, yes.
All right, our first break of the game.
As Wollongong bring it out from deep in their defensive end zone. And Half Moon putting on some sort of zone defense. I can't quite work it out. But at the moment, relatively effective. We need a few poppers from Wollongong. It won't be impossible to break through this. They do need to keep the disc moving, though, to open up those holes. There's a hole right there as it gets centered to Haj. Now a bit more movement through. But Ferguson waiting for someone to do exactly that, and Keys offers that up. We get Ryan in the action, over and around, back to Keys. Now they've made some progress, knocking on the doorstep. That one goes up and is brought down by Nichols. That's a great play from Wollongong. Well done. Stalled initially in that zone, found their feet, managed to get it through and made some progress straight into the end zone. Good work, Wollongong.
Yeah, they did well not to panic there. And the previous point was actually not a break. I made an error before, so far we are just trading points. There were a few turns in the previous point, though. As we see that goal from Keys to Rosie Nichols. Another great duo there on the field. Wollongong showing a lot of composure, particularly when that zone first got thrown on them. But like we've said, these players are all quite experienced and they know how to adapt.
Quality players, exactly. And out of the last 6 points, only 2 of them have had turnovers, double turnovers, which, as we just said, meant that everyone is still on par with where they should be. But 4 of those points have been turnover free, as we would expect of this high quality level play.
Once again, we have Lavis with the pull for Krank. It's a good one. It's hanging up in the air, and Diggings is sprinting to chase that down and stop the first pass. He doesn't quite get there. Karomar with the disc, looking for it long. We know that she can throw that. Wollongong doing well to stop that easy around.
Gets into the hands of Wee, who passes it off to Phillips. Looking for something big, nice slick under, goes back to Ma. About a third of the way out, and she bullets that one straight to the end zone. I think there could be a pick. She was very free. Something's happening there. There is a discussion. Did you see what was happening there?
I couldn't quite see, but I think I just saw a pick hand signal from the game advisor, so looks like we'll be sending it back.
So Lee disappointed with that. It was in her hands in the end zone.
Great throw there from Karomar. Will she do it again? Sends it over to Kat Phillips. Good hands from Phillips. Dang, looking for the bid, but he can't quite do it without causing any contact. Trung with the disc now on the far sideline. Trying for the around. Can't get it. Back to Ma. Over to Lee. Half Moon looking comfortable here. Wollongong trying to stay as tight as possible. Nice switches there to cover the open threats. Foreman with the disc. Phillips. Foreman looking for it back up the line. Ma. Over the top, hammer to the end zone, and she does it. Doesn't matter that there was a pick the first time. She gets it anyway.
And that was all created from Foreman's cut into that front corner of the end zone. There was a defensive player that peeled off of the person who got the goal in the end. I missed that who it was, but that's how that was created, creating that free man. You see it there on the replay. Slick hammer over the top, well weighted, brought down easily by Half Moon.
That was Mark Wee there with the goal for Half Moon. An intense matchup so far in this gold medal match for the Australian Mixed Ultimate Championships.
So this is the first time that we have seen Half Moon play in this tournament. We haven't had the privilege of seeing them on this field yet. And they look like they've got all the goods. They look slick.
They have a lot of existing connections between those players, even though they haven't played as a full team much before. But years of playing together will help, as the disc is with Ferguson for Krank on the far side of the field.
Back to Ryan. Ryan sends it through. Coming now, centres it out. Looking at Coleman. Coleman gives it back. We've got Nichols looking for something through, but a lot of traffic in front of her. Now has to look for relief in a dump over the top. That's a really smart throw. Defender not looking, gets it back. Now what does she want? She's looking at that front corner. Relief by Keys. Keys over the top. I was expecting something like that, but turned inside out. Not quite on his feet. Ferguson has to go one way, then the other. Lost sight and was wrong-footed in the end. Unable to bring that one down.
Wollongong not happy with that turnover there. It was a good option. It did sneak over the top of the stack. No one was really expecting it, but receiver just not quite on the right footing to get a hand to that, and has given Half Moon their first break chance of the game. We know Wollongong had one earlier in the game and wasn't able to convert. Lochnan with the disc, an experienced player. Trung wanting to send it long. Looking back to Lochnan. Well marked by Ryan is Lochnan. Looking for a bailout here. Trung gets it off. John O'Kee's leaving his feet, knowing how important it is to get the disc back here and stop this break from being converted. And it's going long. Ruiz is underneath it, but Nichols is there too. And Ruiz comes down with it to give Half Moon the first break of the game. Seems like an important moment here.
I was very impressed with Ruiz's composure there. Had a couple of players bearing down on her. Her defender, immediate defender, jumped early, didn't go with that. Still went with the flight of the disc, wasn't sucked into that defense. Another player barreling down on her, kept her composure, came down with the disc. We'll see it here in the replay. Jumps early, keeps it, and manages to come away with the goal. Well done, Ruiz. And that is the first break of the game.
As we have our first timeout as well. Potentially for Wollongong to bring themselves back in. Once again, stop that flow of Half Moon. We don't want, well, Wollongong wouldn't want them to get on a bit of a train.
Got one there on their end zone line as soon as we turned it. It's awesome stuff. Really good grip. Let's just take that up.
That's red.
The sideline voice is some of the best I've seen from a national team. This is awesome.
Let's go. Let's go.
One, two, three, go!
As we heard there, I think Ryan was the one that was leading that time out there for Wollongong. Krank, just keep pumping, keep going, not doing anything wrong as such, but keep the pressure up and keep the accuracy, and we'll get there.
It'll be interesting to see whether Half Moon come down again with a bit of a zone, which they might have done earlier in the game, or whether they stick to a match. I'm sure they're being quite strategic with their matchups, trying to knock out some of the key handlers from Wollongong, the likes of Kobe Ryan, John O'Keefe.
The interesting thing about that is that Half Moon have one of the smaller rosters that are here at the Australian Mixed Ultimate Championships Div 1 2024. So they will have to save some of their energy, and they can do that definitely by playing zone. In the meanwhile, Krank have the disc, looking to move it. Ferguson swings it across to Coleman. Coleman, not much upfield, but gets relief there. Looking long again, back to Ferguson. Ferguson, a nice swing across to this sideline. Gets it to Hedich. Hedich moves it forward. Harge into open space. No one there to receive that from Harge in the end.
Just not quite, receiver not quite running on the exact right line for that one, and was covered by a couple of the Half Moon defenders there.
Yamaguchi the target.
Half Moon here with another break chance, walking up to the end zone line. As it goes up in the air, and Ferguson with a huge D, almost crushes a few people on the sideline.
Yeah, Lee the receiver, flat-footed, didn't really have much of a chance as it was floating over her head and coming down. Ferguson barreling down on that, used his height, avoiding the contact and the collision. Well done. So Ferguson will bring it back in. Immediately cut up the line. Almost faked everyone out. Keys gives it to Ryan. Back to Keys. Ryan, light-footed. Cuts coming. Looking them off. Still looking for the dump. Ferguson. Who's Ferguson going to throw it to? Keys. They need to use more of their depth of their players, and they do right now in the form of Coleman. And goes back to Yamaguchi for the score. Well done, Krank.
Wollongong looking strong there. You can see how much it means to them. Really working hard to get free of their players. Half Moon was doing a good job most of that point for shutting down the pass to John O'Keefe, which you could see that most of the handlers were looking for.
Keys working hard, and you can definitely tell by the way the players were looking at him. They're looking at him for on-field leadership as far as making those cuts, making the good choices, directing traffic, all of those sorts of things.
It is heating up a little bit here too. The sun's coming out. A little bit warmer than yesterday, and the breeze has well and truly died down for this final.
So the temperature is raised by a couple of degrees in the air, and I think it's raised by a few degrees on the field as well. These players are heating up.
Pool goes up. Nice and deep into the end zone. Wollongong trying to trap it there. Ma with the disc for Half Moon to Lochnan. Wollongong doing a zone here. Trying to force them to throw middle, but Half Moon is doing well to break through it. And a huge D there from Stoddard, giving Wollongong a chance for the break. Can they convert it this time? Lee has the Frisbee. Looking a little bit frantic, but Lavis gets it on the break side. Faulkner looking for the hammer. Doesn't shoot. Lee on the end zone line. Wollongong trying to keep their cool. Can they score their first break of the game? They do. It's Matt Lavis with the goal, and they are happy about that.
Yeah, great work, and the reason they're happy is that they've leveled the score now, 5-all. And that's a break back, which they sorely needed and they got. So we're back on serve.
As we just see a replay of that defensive block from Stoddard. Almost too quick for the camera.
Yeah, I think he might have suckered that throw and got the D as a result.
Wollongong sideline getting super involved as well. They do have the benefit of a little bit of a larger roster than Half Moon. Can keep the energy up for the players on the field when they're getting tired in those longer points.
Yeah, I really like the fact that they got that D early in that zone. Otherwise, I was thinking there's quite an open hole up front in that zone, and when Phillips first popped into that, I thought that's the way they're going to work it up the field. They're just going to keep popping into that. But Phillips' throw to a player that was flat-footed allowed the D to come from behind.
As we see Lochnan receive that pull once again, nice and deep. The energy really lifting from Krank here to Trong in the middle. To Ma. Shooting deep. And Pigeon is there, and she's gotten it.
Calls out, not quite in. Has to go back to the front of the end zone line. Gets a few options there. Has to send it backwards to Trong. And there's an injury. So that shortens Half Moon's roster even further. Hoping that they can finish this game with 7. And substitute is low. Krank electing not to do a substitution. Trong with the disc in hand. Looks for Phillips. Phillips comes around behind. Wants to swing it further to Ma. Ma looking inwards. Might have to go back to Phillips. Phillips makes a cut. Over to the near sideline. Wee gives a bit of relief. And I think that was the substitute that just came on that got the score.
2 players there from Half Moon, both bidding for that. Showing that commitment, expecting the disc to come. Pigeon behind Mark Wee. Also making a bid for the Frisbee. As Half Moon holds again. Just see a replay from earlier in the point. It was called not in. It is very, very difficult when you're on the field to make those calls in real time, as we see that awesome bid there from Half Moon. Karumar doing a lot for Half Moon so far in the game.
She's a powerhouse. I've been impressed by her work rate and her skills in this game. As I said, first time I've seen Half Moon play as a unit, and to me they are looking good at this point in time.
As we see these teams continue to trade in this gold medal match. To Ferguson. No mark on just yet. Keys. Sending it long. Webster's in the end zone, but is he going to come down with it? He does. Thomas Webster, another one brought down. Another one of Johnny Keys' hucks brought down by Webster for Krank to get a pretty easy score there and keep the game ticking along nicely.
Can see there John O'Kee's stats, 4 assists and just 1 turn.
Not bad.
I didn't even say pretty good.
Wollongong just taking their time to sort out their line call here. I think they'd be looking to go pretty intense on this one. Not that they haven't been already. Try and get that break before half. I think it's going to be pivotal. Whichever team takes half, going to be a huge, not only points difference, but in the mind as well, knowing that you're going into the second half with a bit of a lead. As the pull goes up from Osmond for Krank. Trong to receive to Lochnan. Wollongong getting on tight straight away. Wee with the disc. Sending it long once again. Phillips is there in the end zone. Will she get there? She has to bid, and she's got it.
Was there ever any doubt?
Not much.
Not much,
Not
exactly.
much. Huge from Kat Phillips. One of the stars of Australian Ultimate.
Gets the white shirt dirty and can be proud of that as well.
I'm sure she didn't really want to have to do that, but she made it look like it was just another day of playing Frisbee. There we go.
As they say, Frisbee is just a game of throw and catch.
Very, very true. Get another angle of that. Awesome layout there from Kat Phillips. Seems like we've got a timeout called. Not sure who by, but...
Well, it could be either team at this moment, especially given that...
Hey, it's unreal. We just keep the clinical grind on. We just keep working on the unders, keep cutting high. Great. We're getting a lot of sniffs on D.
That breeze is that's okay. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to say moon. Get up.
ULTI.TV getting you direct into the pit there so you can see the huddle and see what goes on in each group when a timeout is called. I was about to say, in response to your question, I wasn't too sure who called the timeout. Both teams need it in different senses. Obviously, Half Moon, a low roster, they can definitely do with a break to regain energy, regain their breath. Krank, on the other hand, calling it for different reasons, obviously, to stop Half Moon with any potential runs that they get.
Definitely Half Moon with the slight lead here, coming out on defense, but if they do manage to generate a turn, could take half within this point, which would be a benefit going into the second half as the pull comes up from Lochnan. Is it going to fade out? It is. Was looking good there, but just right at the end.
Just faded away as Keys picks up the disc. We have a horizontal offensive look. Half Moon choosing to allow the unders. A couple of players slightly deeper to help out if needed.
I think they know what's been happening so far.
There's a set play there.
Zinger from John O'Keys, and is he going to get there? Webster's laying out, and he's bid, but he's not gotten that. Trong picks it up quickly, runs it to the end zone, makes sure not to travel this time. Low with the disc to Trong. Here is a break chance again for Half Moon to take half. Very close to the line there is Pigeon.
Pigeon looking to send that one back. High stall count. Trong with the disc now. Pigeon moves up, looking deep. See Lee there. Who's going to get that? Lee positioned herself well for an easy catch in the end zone. Half Moon take half. They'll be happy with that. Gives them a bit of respite, a bit of a break.
Bit of a change in momentum there just in the past few points. Was looking very, very even. But Half Moon have just managed to break away to take that 8-6 lead going into half.
So we see that catch there. Pigeon towed it in nicely. Trong looking deep. There it goes. Lee, separation, reads the disc perfectly. Doesn't get drawn in by her defender and takes the easiest of catches in the end. Great work by Half Moon.
We will be back with you in a few minutes after half time. We'll see you shortly.
Are you in support of this review?
Yep. I think review is always a good idea. It doesn't necessarily have to amount to significant changes. It may well do, and that would be great. But yeah, a review is always a good idea, especially after such a long period since the last time it was reviewed. We're the calendar's sort of evolved into where it is without any sort of significant planning, I think. So that's my perception. So yeah, a review and planning of a revised calendar is probably a good idea.
What changes do you personally want to see AFTA make, and why?
I would like to try to remove the division between the open women's and the mixed division and have them play together. That may not be practical straight off the bat, but I think it would open more opportunities for players in all three of those divisions to get more opportunities.
How do you think a consolidated calendar would benefit or affect the GAs?
Currently they're separated by 6 months. If they're separated by a few weeks or 1 or 2 months, then that could potentially be a little more difficult for some of the game advisors to participate at both of those events, where they might be able to do that at the moment a bit more easily. Possibly it makes it more accessible for other people that want to become game advisors and participate. Maybe they can get new opportunities there.
Why is it important that everyone gets involved in the process and has a say in this national calendar review?
Well, it's for everybody, and so everyone should have some input into what suits them. There's probably a large number of people that really enjoy the calendar the way it is now and prefer to be able to play either or both open women's or in the mixed division event. They can do both, or they can choose one and just focus on that. So yeah, I think having input from everyone is going to be helpful. Each state has its own local competitions, its own climate, things that suit players in a particular area better than others. Having all that extra input is going to be important.
I'm coming from the point of view as AFTA president, which means I am looking at the high-level strategic points. And I would like to focus on development, and that includes a few key areas, such as development of our youth. Currently, we have over 100,000 kids coming through sporting schools with no clear plan as to how to get them fully engaged in the sport. That includes grassroots events. We have a large national calendar, as you say, but do we still have space for hat tournaments, for fun tournaments, for casual tournaments, for participation tournaments, or have the national events kind of consumed all of those? So I'd like to bring back space for more of that. And then finally, kind of community development, as you mentioned, with administrators, we're trying to schedule a general meeting like we had before COVID, and it's just hard to find a month where everyone's free. So in those key areas, I'd like to include development of the sport, development of our community, and development of youth as potential objectives as part of this review. As I mentioned, it's kind of hard to get everyone's opinion at any given time. So like now, I can talk with people in Div 1 AMUC, Div 2 we covered last week, but to the general person who just plays league, to your coaches, to the people developing coaching courses, to members of the boards, your club captains, all of the people who otherwise are hard to reach, we're trying to get involved with them so that they can be included in the calendar review, so that they can be involved in future calendars.
Welcome back to the second half of this gold medal match of the Australian Mixed Ultimate Championships, Div 1 from Nelson Bay, New South Wales. Story of the first half is that Half Moon and Krank punched it out and they traded for much of that first half, a couple of breaks, allowed Half Moon to take half 8-6. Let's see what the second half has in store for us.
Yeah, it's looking to be an exciting second half. The final half of Frisbee after a great weekend. 3 days of the top mixed teams in Australia, all fighting it out for a place in this final. Krank and Half Moon happy to have made it this far, but both really wanting to get the final step with the gold medal around their necks.
Silver isn't an option for either of these teams.
As we see, Krank is going to come out on offense here. Chance to get that score a little bit closer. Lochnan with the pull for Half Moon. As Keys receives.
Offside's been called for Krank.
So Half Moon getting to set their defense where they want, which will really change the flow of this point. We've seen a few offsides called throughout the weekend, with the game advisors being able to show the teams whether or not the other team has been offside. As the throw goes up to Ferguson, manages to come down with it, sends it to Coleman. She wants it long, she's not going to get it. Looking back for a dump, a bit chaotic there, sends it to Keys. He manages to come down with that as well under the pressure of Lochnan.
So Keys comes across to this side, finds Ferguson again, centres it, Coleman once more. The usual suspects for Krank in the handling position. Back to Keys, across to a new cut, goes across to Ryan. Looking back for Keys, big around. Keys again, forced back a few metres. Now it comes forward. That's a great cut coming by Webster. Back to Keys. Keys to Ferguson. Now we have Nichols. Keys comes across, almost about to send that one deep.
Coleman's got it on the front of the end zone there, and looks like there might have been a pick between some of the Half Moon players. Just a stoppage to figure that out. The intensity is very high in this first point of the game. Coleman checking the disc in, looking for an option, but it's quite bunched up in front of her. Yamaguchi sends it, and she's got it in the hand. Yamaguchi for the point there, doing her job for the team, just hanging out in that end zone, waiting for the exact right time to come barging through, calling out for it.
Yeah, strong lead by Yamaguchi from the back of the end zone. Just sprinting forward, demanding it, and it was thrown. She caught it, stumbled out, but had full control all the way through.
There we have it. Great hands from Yamaguchi. She did have to change direction a little bit just to make sure of that one. So that was well done by the Krank player. Brings the score to 8-7. Half Moon in the lead, but only just. Pull goes up from Osmond. Wee receives for Half Moon. Gets it moving quickly. Lachlan looking for the give go. Looking for it down the far side. Pigeon. Good with the undercut there. Wee looking for it back. Wollongong doing well on the mark there. Forcing her to pivot. Manages to get it off.
Ma receives the disc.
I think we've got a stall out call there on Angela Pigeon, who had busted down the field and was nowhere near where she was.
I think definitely it was out of my hand. Well, think it was out of my hand before we said 10.
Yeah. Do you have
So from my perspective, I saw your mouth move saying 9 as she threw the disc.
Okay, that's fine. Retracted. So, do I just...
So we have a retracted stall out there with the players going back to where they were. The violation is called. I don't think the players further down the field could hear what had happened or whether the disc was coming back in.
So there's a bit of a protocol before we restart to make sure all defensive and offensive players are good with the restart, and then a tap in of one sort or another. Ma now with the disc in hand, gives it backwards. Trong with it, gives it up to Lochnan. Lochnan down the sideline to Ma, strong grab there. Love that look, hammer across. And that is a great receive from Amar Hammer.
That was Pigeon there in the end zone, where she is known to usually grab the discs. And Ma with, first of all, a great grab from Ma overhead, and then straight away saw the opportunity for the hammer and didn't think twice. Half Moon holding.
So a couple of early breaks in the first half by Half Moon. And in a game where we expected to see trading, those breaks may make all the difference in the end result. Question is, can Krank get a break or two of their own back?
I think Krank are definitely capable of doing that. We saw the defensive intensity that they came out firing with at the start of the game. And as we know, anything can happen in these big games. Just one slip through the hands. Half Moon have done well to come down with those discs there to throw good options, but you never know what can happen. As the pull comes up from Kat Phillips. Keys once again to receive, centering to Ferguson. Wollongong once again working through those key players. Give goes there. Keys getting every second pass. The team scrambling to catch up, and Rosie Nichols, sneaky goal there. Barely even saw that one coming.
That was so quick.
Krank showing that they are definitely not out of this fight yet. Bringing the score to 9-8. Very difficult to keep up with those give-go plays as a handler marker.
Yeah, mad respect to the intensity they had there. The Krank offense then just really strong in their run and desire to get it downfield. And there we see that last pass, jumping it in. Great work there by Rosie Nichols. And good awareness by Jono Keys.
Seeing on that close replay, Half Moon did almost get a hand to that little pass there, but just not quite.
Hey, sideline, we lift, yeah, sideline.
Wollongong sideline here, trying to pump up their teammates, knowing that they really need to get a break sooner rather than later. As Valencourt catches the pull, sends it to Lochnan. Once again in the hands of Ma. Can Wollongong shut down? Caro Mars throws as Kat Phillips sends one to the end zone, and Wee gets a hand to it before Stoddard can. Another very, very quick point.
And we've seen that before. Defense looks like they're going to get in the way. They're going to get the turn. But the desire, the intensity, the read of the disc by the Half Moon players to muscle their way in without making contact to get that disc to affect the score, that is making a big difference, I feel, in this match. So I think the last 4 points have all been turned free. And so if we just keep trading, we see a definite win for Half Moon. Krank have to recognise that, have to do something different in order to get the W on the board.
If they can stop that early flow of Half Moon down the sideline, be interesting to see what Krank do as they come out on offense again, probably hoping for another clean hold. Well, definitely hoping for another clean hold here. Centers to Lila Hodge in the middle. Keys almost. Trong gets a sniff there, but Nichols safe in her hands. Out to Ryan on the far side. To Ferguson. Half Moon have been doing a zone, but they are going to transition to a match now in an attempt to stop Wollongong. It's bubble through the hands of Ferguson, but he holds on. Wollongong looking in control. Happy to pass it through the handlers. Keys making a few meters for them. Always having that dump option there is really helping Wollongong not have to freak out and do anything crazy. As a high stall there, but in the hands of Keys again. He's going to send it to Kobe Ryan, and Kobe Ryan's got it. Not in called. The game is still playing. Not usually a stoppage, but potentially everyone has been walking off the field. Kobe Ryan definitely thought it was in. Can Krank stay calm here? Ferguson reaching, and he got it. Headed in some space, but a little bit junky around her. Half Moon know that they've got a chance here. Keys with the disc. Not liking what he sees. Once again, sending it to Kobe Ryan, and this time it is in. Make sure of that. Wollongong holding again. And we see the teams continue to trade in this gold medal match.
Yeah, that was good defensive pressure by Half Moon in match defense to hold Krank out for as long as they did. Krank's handlers working well, keeping the movement, changing the angles up. Eventually something was created and Krank get to score. Trong coming off at the moment in front of us, so injured. Is that another one down, another one out for this Half Moon team as their roster dwindles even further?
Hopefully he is back on soon as we see him hobbling off. One of the teams has called a timeout here. As we look at some of the players on the sideline, everybody having a good weekend down here in the sun. Probably not looking forward to long drives back home after a long weekend of playing.
Let's see if we get you into the Krank huddle.
Yeah. Double Maddies. Heavy. How's it ankle? Yes.
Whistle.
Yeah. I'm thinking Rosie.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me tell you something.
We are just using open, very small space because they don't want to swing because they don't have legs. So which means we want them to swing.
No open side, no open side.
Legless lizard.
1, 2, 3,
So Krank realizing they need to get a D. Yamaguchi coming in at the end of that, saying we do need that swing also, but they're calling on special teams at the moment. Krank calling their line, hoping to get the D, to get the turn, to get the point. Let's see if they're up to the task.
This is the time to do it. getting towards the pointy end of the game. Definitely within Krank's power to pull this back to even. As we could hear them quite rightly saying that Half Moon probably are feeling the brunt of the weekend with a very short roster and a few injuries throughout the game. Pool going up. And Diggings is there right away. Wollongong with their zone. Let's see if this is going to be effective. They're trying to force that middle shot, and we saw them get a few blocks early on in the game from this, baiting that shot and then waiting for the D.
So really they have to make sure they don't get anything short through that middle. Ma comes in now into that middle space. Another couple of steps to move it up. Lockman with the disc, back to Ma. Don't want to get stuck on that far sideline. Ma's got all the answers with that overhead hammer. Lockman comes in, nice low disc through the middle to Wee. Moving it on. This is going to be a very easy score for Weatherall. And that was not the result that Krank had hoped for. Half Moon looking as though they hardly broke into a sweat with that. That looked very much like a training run to me.
If we see back on the replay, one of the Wollongong players in the middle did make a bid for that shot going through the centre, and I think that was the one that they were really trying to get there. See, as we see Dang getting off his feet. If he had managed to just get a hand to that, the rest of the point would have been a very different story, I think, as that zone is really difficult for those deep defenders. It's really focused on the mids and the handlers. Once they were through Half Moon, like you said, were able to get that nice shot off to Eva Weatherall in the end zone.
It's a very open zone up front. All players up front are looking at every angle that the handler, the person who has the disc, can throw to, trying to shut that down. It's a 4D, 3-0 situation up front, but once it gets past them, it's 3D versus 4-0. That's where you get your easy score.
As Wollongong receives the pull, another 0 point, getting a lot of meters off that first pass. Ferguson with it in the middle. Poaching off John O'Keefe a little bit here, giving him some space, knowing that he probably wants the give-go. Ferguson looking for it back, but is well marked. Coleman instead in the middle, safe hands. Back to Keys. Wanting that inside shot, but Half Moon doing well to stop Wollongong getting any forward momentum here. Kobe Ryan, great grab overhead from Coleman.
So I can see here Lochnan is standing off of Keys, giving him all the time in the world, and I think the reason for that is that he doesn't want to get into a running race with Keys as he gets into the end zone. So Lochnan's the poach at the moment. Keys is free on the opposite side. If they get it across to him, as I speak, it happens. That big poach by Lochnan created that there. But again, I don't think Half Moon are going to worry too much about that, because a break is what Krank needs in order to win this.
That was clever there from Krank. We'll wait to see who the thrower was there, but I think you're right. I think Lachlan was knowing that he probably wouldn't be able to keep up if John O'Keefe did get into a foot race with the give-goes that we've been seeing earlier in the game, And that was a great flick over the top of everyone to a very open Keys out the back of the end zone.
I think if there's only one mistake I'd say that Lochnan made was that he allowed Keys to get too far away from him, hoping to get into that poach in front of the handler position, forgetting that this Krank team can throw it overhead every much as bit as the Half Moon team can.
And they're used to throwing in all sorts of conditions too. Down in Wollongong, it can get very windy. Most of the field's down by the beach. So this light breeze for them today isn't too difficult. As Lavis once again with a pull. It's going to just fade out at the end again for a brick.
So we get a shout out from the sideline, win the matchups. I think that's definitely directed to the Krank players in red. Expect delay or two by some red bodies in this point. They'll want to get this disc back. They'll play hard for it. Ryan on the mark, Lochnan. Nice throw through the middle to Wee, gains meters and then some. Catching up, Ma has a whole lot of throws in her arsenal. Dishes it off to Trong. Around the side, it goes to Ruiz. Haven't seen Ruiz for a while since she scored that point early in the game. Back to Ma. Ma, Trong, comes around, back to Ruiz. She's getting some action here. Lochnan. Phillips runs in, looks her off. Trong forcing Half Moon backwards. That's not going to phase them until now. There is the turnover that Krank desired. They got it. Can they capitalise?
Huge bid there from Kobe Ryan on the mark. Not sure if he got a hand to it or if he just put off the thrower enough. Krank really need to stay in control here and control the tempo of the game. So they might not get many other break chances as Maya Osmond sends it through the middle. There's some sort of call. Kat Phillips has picked that one up. Unfortunate there for Wollongong. I don't think they're going to see many more of those chances.
Ma has the disc in hand, sends it long, looking for Ruiz. I think she's got another one under her belt. Number of touches early on in this point, followed up by the goal. She'll be happy with that one.
Great intensity there from both teams. Wollongong working so hard to get that D. Just not able to convert it, but the game is not over yet.
So Krank, they just need calmer heads when they get that turnover. That might be the only opportunity they get to claw back these missing points from the breaks that they gave to Half Moon early on in the first half.
Well, I think after the first half, Krank may have only been one break down coming out on D. But it just shows you the caliber of these games and these tight games. Even one break matters, whereas earlier in the competition, you can sometimes afford to lose a couple of points and then you know you'll claw them back. As we see the pull go up for Lochnan. Ryan to receive in the far corner. It stays in into Ferguson. Ferguson also doing a lot for this Wollongong team. Played for a while for the club. He's got it on the close sideline now. Wollongong working out of a horror. Half Moon happy to stand off a little bit on the mark there. Hedich on the far sideline with a nice undercut. Yamaguchi calling for it, saying she's open. Back to Jaden Ferguson. Over to Keys. Swinging it around to Ryan. No defenders in sight for him. Back to Rosie Nichols. What can they do here, Krank? Needing to stay calm. Keys wants it, but Ryan's decided he hasn't got enough separation. To Webster. Trying to generate some forward movement. Getting the little dishy off. Ferguson. Swinging it across the field. I thought he was going to send that one there to Ryan on the break side. Decided not to. Wollongong here, close. Almost in the end zone. Not going to throw away a chance here. Keys might have to bid. No, he doesn't. He's fast enough on his feet and sends it into Webster. Awesome composure there from the Wollongong team. Getting close to the end zone quite a couple of times and not rushing anything.
Absolutely, and it was interesting to watch. I was looking at the Half Moon defense then. There was a lot of poach switching in the end zone, and it was very effective. Their communication was exceptional and allowed the defense to keep Krank out for a very long time. Ultimately, it was that cut back from swing that caught the Half Moon defense off guard.
Will we see a break in this point? Wollongong did have a chance in the previous D point that they came out on. Half Moon probably know that if they can just keep plugging away with their quality offense, that they are in a slight advantage from this point. But I'm sure that they are not complacent at all.
I'm not too sure if the statistics that I have in front of me are correct. I'm sure they are. We have had only 2 turns in this second half, and they both occurred in the same point.
Karumar sends it long to Weatherall. She's underneath it, and she's read it really well there. That's just a classic shot we saw early in the point. Stoddard for Wollongong, desperately trying for the block. But Half Moon making that one look pretty easy, despite the tired legs. See that really close block there from, almost blocked from Stoddard. And Karumar just doing what she does best, sending it into the end zone.
Handing it to the receiver on a platter, putting it on a dime.
The score is 13-11. Half Moon in the lead. To see Karumar, she's scored or thrown 4 assists so far in the game. Instrumental for Half Moon's offense. Closing in towards the end of the game. What do you think's going through the minds of the Wollongong players at the moment, Phil?
I think they're just wondering, how can we break this offense? As I said, we've had just 2 turns in this second half, both of them in the same point. Krank had their opportunity and they missed it.
As we see a little bit of a short pull here. See whether Krank can capitalise on this opportunity. Half Moon setting up in a zone, similar to the one Krank's been putting on them. Yamaguchi with the disc. Back to Ferguson. Not many options downfield at the moment, but Keys stepping through the cup, sending it to the far sideline to Ryan. To the centre to Ferguson. Looking for that Dissy to Harge, but just isn't quite sure of it. Ryan almost tripping there. Wollongong keeping patient as they have been for the rest of the game. Knowing that they just need to work this one in there. Half Moon not transitioning to a match at the moment. If they can just keep this disc in their hands, which they just have not been able to. I almost called that goal then. Unlucky there. One of the first unforced errors that we've seen from the Wollongong offense.
First touch by Rosler. Sending it back to Wee. I think Half Moon on defense, they really conserve their energy.
And that was a huge block there, I think, from Lila Hodge. Making up for that drop before. That was a huge block. And she's given her team a chance again as Ferguson sends it to the end zone. Is Ryan going to come down with it? He does. Thought he might jump a little bit early then, but I'm sure that was all part of his plan.
Yeah, and as I was about to say, Half Moon in their defense, conserving a lot of energy, not really running hard, and I was about to say we're seeing it in their offense as well. It's getting late in the tournament. They've lost a few legs. The heat is now starting to affect them. Bit of lethargy. They haven't lost interest in the gold medal by any means. Don't get me wrong there, but they're just conserving energy. I think at the moment they're just playing enough to try and get the turn from the Krank, maybe finish this game a little bit sooner if they can, as I think there's a timeout call by Krank, and that will definitely suit Half Moon. As I continue to talk about, just at the moment they are tired, they look it, but it's not affecting their throws at all. It's not affecting their decision making, and that's a really interesting thing. You don't see that too often in teams. When they get tired, quite often their decision making, their throws, it gets poorer. But this Half Moon team doesn't seem to be affected by that.
All the way, yeah? All in. All in.
Good choice. Got it. Kobe. Cal. Matt. Rosie. Mandy.
As we see both of the teams break away from their huddles. Like we were talking about before, Half Moon managing to keep up really clinical decision making, I think speaks to their experience. A lot of them having tons of experience on the world stage, knowing how to perform and think well under pressure. Definitely using those skills here in this final. As we can see, they have much less of a presence on the sideline compared to this longer Wollongong roster.
Roster for Krank has been called. No, roster. The line for Krank was called in the hope to get that turn that they need. This is possibly their last chance to get the turn they need, because they will need one more after this to have any hope of coming away with a medal colour other than silver.
Definitely Krank needing this one here, and the team knows it. Sending it down the field. Nice long pull, carried by the wind there to Lochnan. And Krank has done well. Half Moon is in Callahan territory here. Kat Phillips with the disc. She knows what to do in this situation. Caro Ma, close by Mandy Lee. Desperately trying to get a block. Faulkner doing his best to stop that big shot from Lochnan.
Marta Phillips. Phillips down the sideline. Hits low. Low centres it. Nice down the, continues down the sideline. Goes to Lee. Lee looking back infield, or yep, comes back to Phillips. And an uncharacteristic drop there. Maybe what I spoke about earlier is starting to affect them. There's a big look there. Up in the air, we've got height on the Krank side. That's Ryan, I think, that comes down with it.
Kobe Ryan scoring the break for Wollongong. Thrown by John O'Keys. That's huge. That is what Wollongong was looking for. That's going to make Half Moon's life a lot more difficult. As you see there, that turn generated from an unforced error there on Half Moon. They've been working so well and just slipped through the hands. Great work there from Kobe Ryan to bring that one down under some pressure from the Half Moon defender. Needed to read that pretty precisely.
So now are we seeing a crack after that Phillips drop in this Half Moon armour?
It is a long, tiring weekend, and it's been a tough game in the sun. So can Wollongong Krank break again here, take this forward momentum?
They need to manufacture one more drop or turn from this Half Moon team to have a realistic chance to take this match out. Scores are 13 apiece.
Krank players here trying to hype up the other teams to support them. Not a bad idea. The noise is getting a little bit louder down here. Karimar catching the pull. Lochnan with the disc. Lochlan not happy to throw that one, seeing Stoddard behind the shoulder of his player, knowing how many blocks he's gotten so far. Great cut there, and well done from Mark Wee to keep that in. He wants it long, but no one's getting in the space for him. Over the head of Kat Phillips, but she manages to pull that one down. Another great layout from her. Half Moon pushing on their end zone. If they can get this one, it's going to be looking good for them. Wollongong desperately trying to stop it, and they can't. Lochnan holds onto that one in the end zone for Half Moon.
I definitely saw an increase, a burst in energy from the Half Moon team there. That was categorical. They know they cannot afford to drop it again. Phillips knew it when she went for that lay to catch that disc, to save it for her team, to give them the best opportunity, the best chance that she could to make sure they get the gold medal around their necks.
Yes, Half Moon making sure of it on that one. Knowing that, I think if they gave Wollongong a sniff then, if they gave Wollongong the chance, Wollongong would have known how important that break chance would have been. And here we have it. Gold medal game for the Australian Mixed Championships. Half Moon in the lead, 14-13. Wollongong Krank to come out on offense here. See if they can bring the scores to tied and take the game to Universe.
Krank know one thing they need to do in this point. No turn.
No turn.
It's
no
how
turn.
if there is a turn, if they drop it, if they don't catch it, if something happens, the way they respond to that will determine their future.
As we have the pull coming up from Half Moon. Little bit short, just past halfway. Krank. This is a good opportunity for them, but it does allow Half Moon to set up defensively. Keys with the disc in the center of the field. Back to Ferguson. Duo that we've seen work well so far today. Ferguson sending it long. Kobe Ryan's in the end zone, and he's come down with it. We're going to Universe.
Yes, we are, and that is exciting. This is our first from the commentary position, what we've seen in Field 4, the live stream field, our first Universe. We're excited. We want to know how this story will end for both teams as much as you do at home. Now is the time to get your mates, your friends in on this live stream. Crank those numbers up. Let them know what's happening. This is it. This is do or die for one of these teams.
My heart is racing. I didn't think that this would happen, but I'm nervous for them.
We are sitting in the shade, very comfy. We've got our caviar in front of us, bottles of wine. The champagne is sitting on ice, ready to be popped. We'll see what happens. We'll see who we get to celebrate the victory with in a few minutes.
Half Moon here calling a timeout just to give their players a little bit more rest, knowing that they could use it, knowing they've had a long tournament with not too many players.
Oh, we're good, Red.
Let's go, Red.
It's got to be fucking now.
Yeah, it's got to be now, Red.
It's got to be now. This is what I'm trained for. Got it. Myself. Carl.
Carl.
Mandy.
Mandy.
Theo.
Theo.
Rosie. Taylor.
Taylor.
Krank taking a little extra time on the timeout. They're not worried. If this was a Worlds game, they might have been penalised, but not here. They called their strongest line. Half Moon already knew what their strongest line was. They've been waiting since the end of this timeout, bordering on a minute ago. Here we are, sidelines are packed and full. They want to see who will win as much as we do. Who is it going to be? Where are you going to place your money? Red or white? What is the call going to be?
Wollongong Krank are Gibney looking for something huge here. Knowing that Half Moon definitely have the capability to just do a few passes and send it long as Thea Osmond comes up with a crucial pull. And it's good. It's long. Lochnan to Ma. Can Wollongong stop Karamars? Cannon of an arm. Kat Phillips with it on the sideline. She can also send it long. Pigeon on the underspace. Rosie Nichols desperately trying to stop the around. Swinging is Half Moon. Can Wollongong stop them? If Half Moon manage to hold on to this, they will be the Australian champions. Over the top of Ryan's shoulder. That's the disc. It's up in the air. Lee's in the end zone, and she's bubbled it, but she's caught it. And that means that Half Moon are the champions of the Australian Mixed Ultimate Championships. What a huge grab there from Lee under a lot of pressure. I kind of hesitated because I wasn't sure if she was going to catch that.
She bobbled it and reeled it in with one hand. Can you believe it? Sideline ominous in the end zone. I thought it could be a turn myself, but here are your victors. Here are your Australian Mixed Ultimate Championships Div 1 for 2024, Half Moon.
They were just clinical, weren't they, on offense? Wollongong giving it to them to the very last minute. It could have been anybody's game there.
After that Kath Phillips drop, they turned it up another notch. They were tired, but they knew they had to see it through to the end, and they did.
As we just see a replay of that final point there from Lee, and she's done it. I'm sure she would have breathed a sigh of relief when that one bobbled back into her hand.
Half Moon, your Australian Mixed Champions for 2024. As the groups shake hands, they go into a huddle before they go into their final speeches. And from everyone here at ULTI.TV, the whole crew, Mike, Rex, myself, Katie, KD, Jay, and ringing Andy Baddocks, on statistics, we congratulate Half Moon on their victory.
Yes, awesome job, Half Moon, the gold medalists. And to all of the players and volunteers this weekend, thank you for creating such a fun and competitive atmosphere. And thank you to all of our viewers as well.
Yep. Watch all the games here on ULTI.TV, streamed live and free for your viewing pleasure. We have plenty more Ultimate coming up throughout the season, and each weekend stay tuned. Until then, enjoy the highlights. We thank you very much for your patronage and your viewing time. It is time for us to go now. It is a sad farewell. I can't say that enough. Thank you very much from everyone here at ULTI.TV.
ULTI.TV. ULTI.TV.